good. Let's start, and other folks can kind of join as they do, and they'll catch up. Yeah.
Okay.
So are you going to kick it off?
I'll kick it off. That's fine. Sure. I wasn't sure. I've had like 3 cups of coffee already. So hello, everyone.
Okay, good.
The thing about these, I thought we would hopefully we'll be able to see everybody, but if not, we can see your names, and I recognize half of you. So good morning, everyone. We are very, very, very excited to do this today. I think how did this come about? Was Suzanne who put us together, or?
We did, and it was through a mutual friend, Elizabeth, who introduced us, and then it kind of just blossomed into this awesome conversation. So
Yeah. For us on our end, we do, those of you who know us, we do a ton of recruiting and a ton of job placements. And of the 4 or 5 people that we put forward on a job panel, 4 of them are not going to get the job, right? 4 out of the 5 are not. And in addition to everybody that we interview. And so I always think that every no is kind of a door to like where you should be going. And maybe this job didn't work out for a reason, but it's when I have to tell people they didn't get the job, especially people that I like and people who have prepared, it's one of the hardest conversations for me. And so that's, I think, kind of why I'm so excited about today. Right?
Yeah, no, good. I am as well. And I think, yeah, that's just so spot on. And I know you, folks on the line, you don't know me yet, but my name is Bribiesca-Hedin. I'm the CEO and founder of Bridgewell Professional Services here in Southern California, and we're a small strategy execution and leadership development firm. And the reason I'm so excited about this conversation is because I find that people typically come to work with me, on the leadership development side, because they're not getting the results they're expecting, right? So something's not going according to plan and they can't put their finger on it. Or on the other side, they're not getting the results they were expecting, but they've turned it into meaning something about them. And we need to like stop that and turn that around immediately. So I love that, Matt kind of started the conversation right there. Because Matt, yeah, that is huge. I don't think there's any bigger fabricated roadblock than someone starting to make up things about themselves to explain why they didn't get the job that 500 people applied for. They were one of the 5 interviewed, and they just didn't happen to be the one selected.
Yeah, recruiting is great because I get to go after people that I'm really happy to meet, but it's also so difficult for me, again, because, you see these wonderful people and take it personally, and it isn't necessary. It's not about that. So that's why also I'm so excited to do this with you today. And I did a terrible job introducing you, but I know you did.
Good.
Yeah, so I'll leave it up to you.
Okay, excellent. So I know we'll have plenty of time to have a conversation and engage people who are joining us as participants. I do want to make a request. If you guys can turn your cameras on, I don't know if that function is available in this session now, but I love to see the faces. It's always nice to be able to kind of interact and be together, right, to the extent we can in this environment. So if you're willing to turn your cameras on, if that is something we can make available, that would be fantastic.
I think that's also a Rosie question. It's a webinar. We can't turn it on. Awesome.
It won't let us. Well, there you have it. I guess I'll only have to envision. Oh, I like that. Envision your smiling faces. See how I put that in there? Okay. Okay, good. So, well, let me tell you, I'm going to take about 15-20 minutes, and I want to talk specifically. You're going to get the speed version of becoming the CEO of your career. And I'm going to walk you through a few myths that I find to be the kind of at the source of really blocking people from becoming the CEOs of their careers. And I'll tell you what that means as well. So because I can go on for any indefinite period of time and always have something to say, I need to work with my slides in order to keep it as tight as possible, you guys. So I have a short set of slides that I am going to start sharing right now. Okay, can you guys give me a thumbs up if you can see my slides? And let me make sure that I have the chat available so you can see it. Excellent. Thank you. Well, welcome again. As I said earlier, I'm Bribiesca-Hedin. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Matt and I have had an opportunity to talk a couple of times before today, and the energy is just always good. He is just brilliant in the space of, recruiting and careers. And I think this conversation just comes together so well because the type of, the kind of mindset that we bring to leading ourselves is ultimately what actually also sells us, right? When we're in a space of job searching, looking for that next opportunity, starting a new venture, supporting a cause, et cetera. It's stepping into that role of leader that just really seems to amplify our impact, right? And I think in particular with this audience, with you guys, more so than other audiences, all of them are fantastic, but more so than others that I speak to, any limitation on your impact is it's just a real loss to the world, if that makes sense, because of the type of work that you're engaged in. You're engaged in the type of work who's there for the sole purpose of making an impact, making a shift, and seeing something fantastic happen. So through this conversation, right, and through the Q&A and this interaction, we can just move the needle a little bit on giving you a little more freedom to step fully into making that impact. That would be a massive win. So I'm going to start right in with that. Let's go. So just a little bit about me. I don't want to spend more than like 30 seconds here. My background is in management consulting, and I went to Ernst & Young right out of business school, and that was more years ago than I want to admit. But I loved every moment of it. I joined because I thought it'd be like one long continuous set of case studies, and it really was. It was a lot of fun. And at some point, I left that environment, but always had that desire for being in that advisory capacity, consulting. So every role I've taken since then continued to support that. As a result, I've been inside of a lot of different companies, a lot of different types of organizations, and seeing the inside of all of these companies and management styles, I really learned just really how to bring different ideas to fruition and bring people along on that path. And also how to course correct, because I learned the impact of broken systems on the people inside. And so that course correction becomes even more important. Obviously I've kept on adding over the years, and now 95% of my time is focused on leadership development and coaching. And I absolutely love that, because it's that people's side of the equation that defines whether a strategic initiative, a transformation endeavor is actually going to work. So essentially, that is the access to that impact, right? The people that we're with. So again, fortunate to be inside of so many different organizations, and it's given me some real perspective on also kind of what works and what doesn't work when it comes to navigating careers. Now, when I talk about becoming the CEO of your career, I'm talking very deliberately about becoming the top decision maker and chief strategist in your career, right? You are the chief strategist for the impact you want to make professionally, personally, in your communities, et cetera. Because the alternative to not stepping in and taking on your rightful role as CEO or chief strategist is simply being along for the ride. Wherever that next project or the next client or the next boss or the next economic downturn takes you, right? And the fact of the matter is that only takes you farther away from making the type of impact that you want to make, right? So I'm going to go really quickly. I'm going to invite you to pull the information to you, take what resonates. You can ignore the rest if you need to, But my top ask is that you take action on the ideas that actually do resonate, because, no matter what, here's the thing. The changes that you're looking for in your career, in your leadership ability, capacity, in your ability to build other leaders, it doesn't live in just knowing more, right? It doesn't live in having more information. Lord knows we have drawers and buckets full of information. It actually lives in getting it done, in putting it into action. So don't write off what you can make happen from working a plan or some ideas you got in this 60-minute conversation with me and with Matt. Just run with it, right? Suspend your belief or disbelief and run with it and make it happen. Okay, so quick show of hands, or actually give me a yes in the chat since I can see the chat really clearly. Who here considers themselves to be action takers? Let me see, you action takers, give me a yes in the chat. Excellent. Excellent. I see the I do's and the yeses. Right on. Okay, good. Excellent. So let's get to it. Now, I'm going to ask you one more question. So go ahead and get your hands on the, on the keyboard. Keep that chat open. How many of you here consider yourselves leaders? Who considers themselves a leader? Go ahead and give me a yes or a leader in the chat. 100%. Yes. Excellent. Okay. I see hesitation. So I want to say, without hesitation, that every one of you sitting in this conversation is a leader, right? Every single one of you sitting in this conversation is a leader, because I have a very deliberate and intentional way that I define what leadership is. And it's also very straightforward. Leadership is simply, developing the ability to elicit the best from yourself, and then from there, elicit the best in others, right? So to bring forth the best that you have to offer, and from there, inspire others to bring their best as well to whatever it is that you're doing. So you can see that has nothing to do with a title, that has nothing to do with being, crowned the leader or getting any sort of formal authority vested on us, right? That is a massive myth. And I spend plenty of time having that conversation as well with groups. But I bring that up because I want you to know that, from this point forward, please hold on to that idea that you are a leader in any space you're in, because again, no one has more agency in creating an impact in places that are important to you than you do. So by definition, you are a leader. And if you're bringing with you the ability to kind of elevate and inspire others to do the same, you are just, that next level type of leader. So please do not hesitate. Do not wait for someone else to tell you that you're a leader or to give you permission. You are it, you were born it, and there's no one better suited than you to own that role of leader. So I'm going to dive right in. I want to run through just 4 quick myths that seem to get in the way of just professionals and brilliant people showing up as the CEOs of their careers, and really just meaning making that maximum impact. The first one is managing up. And boy, I have a love-hate relationship with this one, right? Because managing up, we of course, we all know what that means. It assumes that you're going to be aligned. You're going to understand what the priorities are that your boss has in mind. The real fatal flaw with managing up is that there's a real opportunity to overinvest there, even if you're not seeing returns. Because managing up assumes that you are reporting to a leader. It assumes that you're working with people who want to catch you winning. And, I want to keep this really positive, but I want to be clear and real too. If you've been working for more than, 3, 5, 10 years, that not every boss you've had or will have is going to fit that definition. They're not going to be out to catch you winning. And they might be the type of leader who, sees your slip up as an opportunity to make you wrong, instead of, right, that leader that we hope we have, which sees every slip up as an opportunity to help you grow, right? Big distinction. But that also reminds us that that's the type of leader, right? The one who wants to see you grow and catch you winning and can see you for what's possible. That's the type of leader that we want to follow, even if we don't always agree. Because you're not always going to agree, but that's not what makes for a good leader or leadership experience. Now, I have a kind of a bit of a love of trees, and this is just a fantastic, amazing oak image. And the oak is amazing because it knows what it needs to grow. So it'll grow straight up towards the sun, just like, its roots will reach out to get the water that it needs. But if anything gets in the way of that oak getting what it needs or reaching sufficient sunlight or water, it will literally alter its direction and lean to get the nourishment that it needs in order to be well, in order to continue to thrive and grow. It doesn't wait for the sun or for the water or for other trees to move where it's more convenient to it. And it doesn't wait for permission. It simply pivots so that its investment of energy always yields returns and is positive. So again, I invite you to be like that oak, right? So this is intentional leadership alternative number one. I invite you to manage yourself instead of managing up. And one first step I like to encourage for that is to know where you are and where you're going, right? We spend so much time looking out to figure out what everyone might want us to do or what they might be thinking or where they're going, that we're not always clear. So as a first step, just to actively managing your career and having that chief strategist hat on, it's important that you get clarity on where you are and where you're going, right? So elevate your role to chief strategist and decision maker, and analyze your career. And I actually have a career assessment you can download for free after the conversation. And I strongly advise you to do that. And if you don't want to use that, do a SWOT analysis on your career. But bottom line is gain clarity on where you are and what you actually want. Now, I'm going to introduce you to a model that I created, and I call it the career CEO journey. Sometimes you'll see it described as my decision driver model, but I like this model. It's not just because I created it, but I like it because it helps me and it helps my clients, my leadership programs to understand and navigate their experience, and also the focus and the action drivers that go along with that. Because the bottom line is, whatever is driving your decisions, that's also what's driving your results, right? So if your results aren't what you want them to be, if they don't look the way you expected, we need to look at what's driving your decisions. And this just makes it super simple. We don't have time to fully, explore it, but I'm going to go through it and give you a crash course as quickly as I can. So the model gives you perspective across 3 dimensions, right? The feeling or experience, to you as the leader, as the individual. Another way to look at it is who you're being and, what you're living. The next one is where you're focusing your mental energy. And then finally, what's driving or triggering your decisions. And then as a result, your actions and the results you get out of that. So starting at the bottom of the model, the concerned citizen, as you can guess, this is where the area we want to stay out of as much as possible. Now, the concerned citizen, this is where you might be after a particularly bad spell in your career, or when your self-esteem and confidence have taken a bit of a serious blow. You can see here, we're focused on ourselves. It's very internal. Sometimes you might end up here because you've internalized some extended criticism from the environment you've been in, or even some self-criticism that you started to believe, as we said at the very beginning, trying to explain why you didn't get what you wanted by having it mean something negative about you, right? And when we sit in that frame of mind, we have a tendency to ruminate and find even more evidence, right, for why that nonsense is true. Now, it's not true at all, but our brains are really fantastic at reminding us, all the failures we've had from 2nd grade on. So it's a tough place to be because it's difficult to make decisions from any other place, because your entire purpose here is self-preservation. Loss avoidance is a significant driver. And if you've ever kind of looked at game theory, you might know that when you play not to lose, you don't do as well as when you play to win. I didn't usually bring that up, but that popped into my mind now because I find that to be just really relevant and applicable here. So the bottom line is, though, that the experience here is fear. The experience here is anxiety. It's worrying. It's a Sunday night blues. It's depression. Freaking out when you need to go into meetings with certain people. And so the natural inclination is to hide and to play small. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment. But just know that playing small does not actually result in you feeling more safe. On the contrary, it seems to actually amplify the feeling of being at risk. And if you've ever been in that position, you probably know exactly what I mean. So I'm going to go on to the next one because I already spent more time than I intended here. The next level, and this is probably the closest we have to a default. It's the self-conscious careerist, I call it. Here we really are driven by image and ego, which is a double-edged sword, right? Because image and ego can have you want to strive for more, put your best foot forward, look for that acknowledgement and the reward. The challenge is it's looking for that acknowledgement from outside. So there's a lot of validation seeking and people pleasing. There's a strong pull to try to be right and have the last word. A lot of action is going to come from saving face, right? So as opposed to when something goes wrong, focusing on creating a solution, course correcting as quickly as possible, engaging support and other chief strategists, right, to help out with that. We actually go into this weird space of simply trying to look good and deflect blame. Not a great place to be. Again, it has its pros because it's what kind of pushes us. It's like this healthy competition that lives in that space. The problem is that competition and our assessment of how we're doing in it is always external. It's dependent on someone else validating. And the experience is also one of being incredibly reactive and in our heads, right? So nothing is just what it is. Everything means something. So you see somebody raise an eyebrow and you're like, what did that mean? Folks went to lunch without you and you're trying to figure out what that means. So it's a very, it can be a very uncomfortable and unsettling place to be. And as a result, people are often very reactive and defensive when they're in this space. And then finally, there's what I refer to as the career CEO level or chief strategist level. And here the focus really is on a mission. And while mission, with this group, with you guys, probably has a very specific meaning, it can also be the mission in the current task, right? Really understanding what this new client's intention, desire, or objective is, and staying with that purpose. The reason that there is such clarity and confidence in this area, it's not because we have it all figured out. It's not at all because we have it all figured out. What it is that we know, because we understand what's important, because we're not going to just be distracted by something not going according to plan or by getting it wrong, we can simply go with whatever shows up, right? So any of you who work in and spend a lot of time creating plans, that the best laid plans are only a great way to practice how to address what you didn't plan for, right? And this is coming from a lifelong strategy execution person. This is what I do, bringing ideas to fruition. And yet the most amazing plans are not going to take every eventuality into account. So if your intention is to know exactly what to say and when in order to get it right or feel like you got it or look good, that's a tough place to be. Because the moment that something shows up and throws us off our game, we're kind of done. So it is wonderful to have that focus and conviction to purpose, to be focused on that mission or higher intention, because it serves as a North Star when things start to go, off base. So I wanted to introduce that again because it really falls into understanding why you might be making some of the decisions you're making and why people around you might be making those decisions. I find it incredibly valuable on both fronts. Now, myth number 2, right? I want to be super clear with this one. Because while the myth is that doing a good job will ensure your career success, I just want to clarify that you should always be aiming to knock it out of the park, right? Just because, again, you're the CEO of your impact. So why the heck not? Knock it out of the park. But what's missing here is the certain piece that makes it damaging to careers, and that's who needs to believe that you did a good job, right? It's dependent on another person's validation. And it's that lack of validation or not getting the response that you were expecting or hoping for or jockeying for, whatever it is, or worse yet, criticism, whether it's earned or not, that quickly derails us. It derails our pride. It derails our sense of accomplishment, our sense of self, and often even our sense of reality, right? So somehow we get lost the moment that we hear that. And so I share this apple because I often share the story of a farmer who went to the store. She wanted to to start a little orchard, but she wanted an orange tree in this particular spot. She went out and brought home a tree she thought was an orange tree. It turned out it was an apple tree. Now, this apple tree ended up giving her the most amazing prize-winning apples ever. But this farmer, she simply was not going to be able to get with how fantastic those apples were because she was still caught up on the fact that she made the mistake, right? She still felt stupid every time she looked at her award-winning apple tree and would never fully recognize it for its glory because of something going on in her head. Now, is the apple tree in any way impacted by the fact that the farmer made a mistake and hoped it was an orange tree? No. The apple tree knows that it's prize winning. The apple tree knows that it's fantastic and was never waiting for the farmer to validate that. So, in this way, I invite you to be like that prize winning apple tree. You know where and when you're prize winning, and it doesn't matter if the farmer, the boss, the client, the donor, or the board member doesn't recognize it. You do. Just remember, like the farmer, that her ability to acknowledge that excellence, right, and what that apple tree was actually bringing really had nothing to do with the apple tree. It had everything to do with the farmer. Okay, I think we've nailed that one. So the bottom line here is that, you need to stay out of the validation trap, right? Once you're clear on the ultimate objective or outcome, you can acknowledge yourself and recognize whether you did the job you were hoping for. Now, again, when you fall into the validation trap, that's when you get back down here into that concerned citizen space. If you continue to miss the mark and continue to think that the farmer's problem is your problem, right? When you start to make that person's issue mean something about you, that is a quick slide down to that concerned citizen place. We do not want to be there because there's no innovation, no inspiration, no collaboration, no contribution that can be created from that place. It's very, very difficult. So next one, SMART goals. Okay, I'm not going to bash SMART goals. I think SMART goals are necessary. The problem is SMART goals are not enough. So thinking that SMART goals are the key to success, again, like most myths, it's simply incomplete. So, the bottom line is that just knowing what you want or just having clarity is not enough, right? And any number of abandoned New Year resolutions, and I'm sure I have my own, are enough evidence to the contrary. So this is where accountability really makes a difference, whether it's mentors, coaches, masterminds, having your buddy group, your own kitchen advisory cabinet that helps they help you stay connected and energized for your goals and intentions and career and impact, even when you get tired. right? When you run out of gas, they are present and able to fuel you continuing to move forward. And we all need that. Plus, you know, here's what we know about goal achievement. I'll share this very quickly. In essence, if you just say you're going to do something without a date, there's a 4% likelihood you're going to get it done. If you set a date, it jumps to 46% likelihood. If you share that goal and tell someone else that commitment, it jumps to 65%. So that's not so awful, right? But to get to that 95% level of goal achievement, what you need to do is actually have progress meetings about that goal with, you know, the person you shared the intention with, and you will jump to 95%. I mean, I think that's absolutely amazing. And yet it's not surprising if you think about it, because again, when we get discouraged, when we run out of energy, when we get redirected or distracted, there's someone else who remembers what was really important to us. And then finally, I had to squeeze this one in because I really wanted to touch on the playing small. Keeping your head down and playing small will keep you safe? No, it will not keep you safe. As I mentioned earlier, making decisions out of fear never actually relieves the experience of fear. It only reinforces that you need to be even safer. So the antidote to playing small is engaging. It is literally getting out of yourself, out of your head, and engaging with other people, engaging with other causes, but you really do need to get out of yourself. It's not enough to stay in your head. Woo, okay, so I went through that as quickly as I could, and I want to stop now so that we have some time to go through questions and just have a real conversation about what you saw and where you're seeing that in your careers or lives. Okay, Matt, welcome back.
Yeah, no, I turned off my head because I didn't feel like people needed to see my face when we were going through that amazing slideshow. So I wasn't sure, because you can't tell you can't tell when you're a presenter if like when your slides were up, if my head was below yours. So I figured I would just turn myself off.
Okay.
Nobody needs to see this in the morning.
I'm glad you're back. I'm happy to see you.
I was never gone. I was just drinking my.
Yes. No, I saw you there. Okay, good. Yeah, please feel free. If you have questions, feel free to bring them up. Otherwise, I know that I have some questions that maybe seeing things through this lens, we can have a little chat about that as well, Matt. So I know that one that I had kind of brought up in some of our pre-conversations was, how do we get ourselves out of what can feel like a rut in a stuck job search? How do we get out?
Oh, such a hard question. So, okay, so here's what's interesting. I have a friend who was number 2 5 times in a row for a job. So he called me after like the 3rd time. He was like, Matt, I can't be the bridesmaid anymore. Like, I can't do this anymore. I need to like become the bride. And just couldn't, he just didn't know what to do, and he was just losing faith in himself, right? And
Yeah.
it just, so I just took him out for a drink, because that's my favorite thing to do, just in case everybody on this call knows me, and just really talked through, like, you can't lose faith in terms of what you want. You can't lose faith in terms of your passion. So he was trying to be an executive director of a nonprofit. And he was like, well, I really like kids and I want to work with kids and that's what I want to do. But like at this point, I've been turned down by 3 organizations. I'm just going to apply for anything. And you just can't do that because you're just going to be miserable. And so we just kind of talked through what feedback he got. And he didn't actually ask for feedback in terms of when he was turned down. So I asked him to go back and get that feedback. And we kind of talked through how he answered questions and his resume and all of that stuff, and just kind of kept him on track. So he didn't take it personally. And then the 4th time, he didn't get the job, but he was really close and he got really fantastic feedback. And the 5th time he got the job. And can you imagine though? I don't know if you guys can, like, I can't see anybody, but 4 times to be turned down from a job and be number 2 and then finally to get the job. But that's what he said. What he told me was that he took it personally, thought it was him. He just, was ready to give up and do anything. You just can't. You need to take a breath. You need to take a break. But just remember that, what you're passionate about, where you want to go, and just, if you can, practice with some friends, ask for feedback, and try not to take it personally. And don't lose faith. You will get that job. So
Yeah,
that's what I always tell people the same
love
thing,
that.
by the way, Oscar. I don't know if you agree with me, but I do believe things happen for a reason. You don't get a job for a reason because the right one is out there. So, if that's something that you guys can believe me on, trust me, the right job is out there for you. Just if you didn't get, the one that you think you wanted, it wasn't right for you.
Yeah, and I think even if you don't think it happens for a reason, there are so many other doors out there, right? I think sometimes we react or respond the way we do because we think that that is the one door. That was the only door. And you guys, I do want to mention this, if I can throw this in there. For you guys who've ever been on a weird date, so I want to have you bring in that frame of reference, right? Um, you know how you can tell if you're on a date with someone who hasn't been on a date in like years, and you are maybe the only date they've had in many, many years. There is definitely an energy and a vibe that comes across, even if they're doing all that. Oops, sorry, my camera's shaking. Even if they're doing all the quote unquote things to charm and saying all the appropriate things and having the right conversations, but sometimes we can still pick up this energy. And that's often because, the confidence that they're trying to portray is actually being kind of clouded or impacted, and it's not aligned with what's actually going on in their heads, right? Because what's probably going on in your heads, and let's be frank, we've probably all been the weird person on the date too, right? So when we've been the weird person on the date, what are we thinking the whole time? We're like, what does she think about me? What did that mean? I wonder which I should talk about next that'll make me sound intelligent or interesting. Or what else can I share that'll make them, think I'm more appealing? It's really strange because all we're doing in that time is being in our heads, wondering what they're thinking or trying to figure out how to change what they're thinking. And we bring that same weird energy into interviews when we didn't take a moment to just kind of be with ourselves, remember what it is that we bring to the equation. And then the one thing I always tell my clients is, I call it the $1 million question, but I always ask, what is it you're hoping they don't ask you? Because whatever that question is, you're hoping they don't ask you in the interview is the question that's sitting right here, clouding your ability to connect and to be fully present and engaged and show them who you really are because you're so afraid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that it's so important for people to understand that, when you don't have faith in yourself and when you are not confident in yourself, that just comes through. It just comes through. When people think that they aren't good enough or whatever it is, they have imposter syndrome or whatever it is, it comes through in the interview. And so I think what's really important is anytime that you are thinking about where you want to go, what you want to do, you have to have faith in yourself to get through that interview, or it's just not going to work. So I think that pyramid that you shared, Oscar, was so perfect, in it, and it just goes to show why having a coach, having somebody to rely on, having somebody to talk to is so important, because we see it all the time. And what frustrates me the most, what makes me so unhappy, is when I know people can do the job and are fantastic at it and will kick ass in it, and they just don't have the faith in themselves, and that comes through. And I don't know how to I don't know how to fix that. So I think that's really.
Yeah, well, honestly, the I like to say the uninvestigated mind is a scary thing because we go with it, right? We go with that automatic thought, that automatic doubt. Why don't we default to how awesome we are? No, that's not where we default. And
Right.
that is just the worst thing we can do for ourselves, right? Showing up from that space or showing up already apologizing. So I'm looking at one of the questions here in the chat. So thank you, Lisa. She said, thank you. This has been a great session, like the career CEO journey. Been in fear, anxiety stage after being let go from my C-suite job, but I'm moving into the conscious career stage and starting to feel better about where I am and want to go next. Excellent. Yeah, excellent. And, you know, it's that first step out of being a concerned citizen that's the hardest, because like I said, from there, it's so hard to take action that feels inspired, right? And again, we've all been there, you know, whether it's on a personal level or career level. And the trick is to get out as quickly as possible. That's why I say the antidote is engaging, because we're not going to feel like it. Well, let's be honest, you're not going to feel like it. You don't feel inspired to do much of anything when you're in that space, other than trying to keep yourself safe, you know, from the fictitious fears, right, that have now built up in our heads. Let's see, I think there was another question here. Okay, what are some job searching, interviewing strategies we should think about in a post-COVID world?
Some job searching, interviewing strategies we should think about in a post. Well, this is a whole other world, because I don't know what it's gonna look like in a post-COVID world. I really hope that we can go back to in person, and I actually think that the most difficult thing is to get off of Zoom and to go back in person, because we have all sort of in this last year and a half been trained on looking at this screen,
Right.
and it's just not. It just, you don't get a feel for who the person is in person. So I think what's really important, honestly, the most important thing that okay. So if you back up for 1 second, when you come into an interview with me, what I will tell you is do your research on the organization. Like, especially if you want to work at a nonprofit and you want to be an executive director or director of development, whatever it is, CFO, do that research. Know the organization inside and out. Go on their website, go on their 990, all of that good stuff. And then practice with some friends in terms of some answers and questions. And I think what I will tell you, here's my most like pet peeve answer that I get. So like, be clear about this. Why do you want this job? I always ask that question at the beginning. Why do you want this job, right? And if it's for a CEO position, don't just say, well, I want to be a CEO. I think it's time for me to be a CEO. I think I have the experience. I'm good enough. I should be a CEO of any organization.
Yes.
You're out. You're out. You need to be passionate about the organization. Tell me that you want that organization. This is where you want to be. And it's that passion that I want to see, first of all. But the second thing is self-awareness. I think the self-awareness piece, and I'm not answering your question about post-COVID. I'm sorry, I'm just going into a different direction. But it's that self-awareness piece that's going to be, for me, key in terms of an interview as well. I know if you're, if I ask you a question, you don't know the answer, be honest. If you just quit your job because you want to go somewhere else, be honest. Don't tell me, well, I did everything I needed to do on the job, and so it was the right time for me to step away. That's not the answer. Be honest. We want to hear that. And so I think, going back to in-person, that in-person conversation, that honesty, that self-awareness, and that passion for why you want the job, I think is going to be really key. But I don't think necessarily that I answered your question.
No, I love it, actually, because I think that what you shared is kind of timeless, right? So the self-awareness, the clarity on why you want the job, and really what you want to do there, right? What you want to bring there. I really think that's timeless, no matter what kind of organization or role you're going for. Yeah, and I agree, Matt. I think because I want to have the title of CEO is probably not your best.
And I get that.
Let's go too.
I get it all the time. Like, well, I'm ready in my career to be the CEO. Well, not this organization.
Right.
And also somebody just asked, if they're an introvert, right? And like, if you can, I don't know if you guys can see the questions, but what the person said was, I'm great at my job when I am behind the computer and in my little world, but I fall apart when I have to present myself in front of others. And I lose all self-confidence, and it's really frustrating, which is, well, actually, I think you probably can answer this question better than me.
Yes, I mean, it's so common. So first of all, you're not alone. But here's the thing, right? When we lose our self-confidence, right, because we're engaging with another person, it's because instead of being with them, we're with what they're thinking about us, right? So when, for example, and this is, you know, a piece of advice I give, especially when people have a hard time in public speaking. With public speaking, I think it's really important if you stay present to what value you want to deliver, you don't have to remember all the words. You don't have to get it right because you're so connected and committed to, I want to leave them able to feel this, or I want to leave them inspired to do that, right? It doesn't matter if the slideshow didn't work, right? It doesn't matter if you forgot some specific, you know, thing that was mentioned on the company's website. You know, really, it's going to be a matter of getting present with who you are and what you bring, separate from the validation that you're looking for, right? Because this is just another symptom, what you're describing. It's another symptom of being in that validation trap, right? That I don't have permission to believe X about myself until somebody else tells me first. That's crap. So I want to be super clear. That's crap. It doesn't serve you, right? And you need to set it aside. And I'm glad to, and I'll give you guys information on, of course, how to reach me afterwards. I do offer a free discovery session, so we can talk through some of that and I can give you some recommendations, but it is just absolute crap. And what I have found over the years is that what we're afraid of isn't actually kind of like what will happen. Like, what's somebody going to do? Roll their eyes at you and walk away? Let's just say that that's what happens, right? You say the most stupid thing you can imagine and they roll their eyes and they walk away. That's all that happened. They rolled their eyes and they walked away. But the fear actually comes, the intimidation actually comes from what you think you're going to let it mean about you, and what you think you're going to feel in a response to what you made it mean about you. So I know I'm taking it to a kind of 2 or 3 steps in level that I didn't intend to take it, but I think it's so important to recognize that whatever it is that you're afraid of, it is never that thing. Because you know what, if I have my client sit down and do what's the worst that can happen? And then if that happens, how would you recover from it? Exercise, they're always able to recover. There is never permanent damage. But that's not how our brains work. You know, they're on automatic mode. They're on self-preservation mode most of the time. So we need to be really inspired and deliberate and intentional about showing up fully, knowing that we can take whatever shows up, right? There's nothing that can show up that's gonna keep you from being able to recover from it or address it.
Also, I think it's also really important for people to know, just because also I'm on the other side so many times, it's okay to mess up. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to say, I don't know why I'm so nervous right now, because on our side, we're rooting for you, right? So we want you to do well. So it's okay
Right.
to address that. And I think, when you're thinking about whether or not you're good enough for a position or whatever it is, the thing that is really important is there isn't one person who can do everything on their own. We're a team. So just, always remember, like, there is no such thing as perfection. It is okay if you make mistakes. It is okay if you admit that you don't know an answer to something. That's fine. We want to know who you are. So that should never be something that should make you not want to show up.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see if there's anything else. I know we still have a couple of minutes. Oh, that's right. I was actually about to drop the link for the self-assessment in here. So let me make sure I actually do give you the correct link, and you guys can feel free to download it. When you download the self-assessment, I think there's also a link in there for scheduling a discovery session with me. And, I don't want to plug that too hard, but to let you know, the discovery session, it's not a coaching session per se, but it gives me an opportunity to understand what the primary kind of challenges are that you see, or even if you don't see them, I'll take you through an exercise to help surface some opportunities for you, and then give you my recommendation on the top 2 or 3 areas that you'd focus on. And if I think I can help you, I will let you know how, and you can decide if that makes sense for you. But here's the thing, everything we've talked about today, I think it's so incredibly important that you pull that into whatever support system or structure you have, whether it's your mentor, whether it's your coach, whether it's, again, your accountability buddies. Do not just let it sit on the notepad that you took the notes on. Pull it into that support structure. If you have a coach you're working with, that's fantastic. If you do not have that support structure, you do not have a coach, absolutely, I invite you to explore working with me. So do schedule that session. That one's easy. You can go to hourofsuccess.com, just like an hour of time, hourofsuccess.com, and you can schedule that. And I'm about to give you the link for the self-assessment, because again, sometimes just taking 30 minutes in a quiet space with a cup of tea or coffee and sitting and thinking about what's actually happening and what do I actually want, and not because you're ordering food on a menu, can be really insightful, because we do not, as adults, give ourselves the luxury of getting present to what we want, right? And so it's a nice little gift, I think, to yourself.
By the way, Adrian just told you that this has been the best hour spent in a great while. Thank you. And it's obviously not me, because I'm making it worse. So you're awesome, Asya.
That out. Okay, so great. Okay, let me see if I got this right. I always forget if I put an S on this link. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to drop it in the chat, but FYI, you can just go to bridgewellpro.com/finisher, because it's a finisher bonus, because we love finishers. So here we go. There you go. And you should just be able to click that. And Adrian, you are welcome. And thank you for being here. Thank you all for being just so engaged. This is a great conversation. I wish we had twice as much time, because I'm sure Matt and I can rattle on for another hour without pause.
I could talk forever. I can. Just people stop listening. I mean, if
yeah, there is that. Oh my God, I do have one more question for you, right? And I know I think I mentioned this is the dream scenario, Matt, but so you took a job because, well, we need a job and income and food and rent, right? And now your dream job came through. For whatever reason, they took 7 months. Yeah. And they now presented you with an amazing offer, which, by the way, of course, you're going to negotiate. But they presented you with an amazing offer, and you are so excited, but you've only been in this new job for what, 4 weeks, 8 weeks? How do you navigate that situation?
Oh, it's so hard. I mean, so you took a job because you needed a job, and then a month later you got this other offer for the most amazing job, or 3 months later, because you had to apply for it in an interview. Sure. You have to take it. So people come to me a lot and just say, look, I have this, and actually it's a really good thing. Like I want to help this organization see through, but then there's this perfect job. What do? I think I need to stay where I am. And, you got to do what makes you happy. You got to do what's going to bring you fulfillment. So if you do have that dream job that comes up right after you started this one right now, take it. But I think you've got to do your best to have the current organization be prepared to hire somebody else, right? So if it means you're staying here part-time and you're going there part-time, you just want to see it through. You don't want to just leave, because it's going to be a terrible reputation, but you've got to take it. I mean, at the end of the day, we spend more time at work, we spend more time with our coworkers than we do at home with our loved ones. So, it's easy to say you want to be happy and be happy at the job. You're never going to be 100% happy, but go with that dream job. Take it. Do what you have to do, because you spend so much time at work. Just be sure that you clean up as best you can. I mean, they're going to be mad at you anyway, but as best you can.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I do think, and I get that. I know somebody, dropped a note in there saying employers have no ethics in getting rid of you. And you know what? I get it. I get that. I get that sentiment, but how you show up and who you're being has nothing to do with them, right? So who you're being is independent of how everyone else is being, right? So you decide. You are the chief strategist, right? You are the head and chief decision maker for the impact you want to make and the energy you want to bring to every environment you're in. So there's no good, there's no bad, but you decide what you want that impact to be.
Agreed. Cool. Well, thank
Okay,
you
you guys, this has been amazing. Matt, thank you so much. Suzanne, I know you're in there somewhere. Thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. I love what you guys do. We have some amazing charities here in LA, Southern California, and I know you guys are on the East Coast as well, that it's just, what you do is amazing.
Thank you.
Just keep on, kicking ass.
Thank you. And you too. We need people to be, I want people to show up and be confident and know that they're amazing and not have that imposter syndrome. So Asi, what you're doing is spectacular, and people need you. People need you. So those of you who are here, please, please, please reach out, and good luck on everything. And if you've been up for like 18 jobs and you haven't gotten it, I promise you there's a reason. Don't give up. It's not you.
Yeah.
And no is
Agreed.
not a bad answer. No is not a bad answer at all. So. Okay, everyone.
Agreed. Okay, thank you guys. By the way, I'm active on LinkedIn, not so much on Facebook and the other places. I'm active on LinkedIn. You can find me there either under Bridgewell or personally. Feel free to connect. Let me know you saw me here, and I'll, we'll connect there.
All right.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.